Well, hey there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Rate the Record podcast, episode 126. Thank you very much for joining me today. I'm your host, Chris, as always, sitting here in this chair, in this studio, doing album reviews. I got my reviews, and you're here to listen, and you can also share your own opinions and all that kind of stuff, too. Just glad that you've decided to make it out and hang out with me today. Really appreciated. And also, speaking of things that I appreciate, there is one thing, a bunch of things, or all the things I'm about to list that you could do to help show your support for the channel, and they are the following: like, subscribe, rate, share, comment, and follow. 6 quick, free, and easy things that you can do to show your appreciation, and then I will really appreciate your appreciation. That's how this whole thing works. So if you choose to do that now, a little later, a bunch of, or all the things I just listed would be very nice. So thank you very much if you choose to do so. And of course, you can find all the places to do those particular types of things over at ratetherecord.ca. That is ratetherecord.ca. All of the streaming links, social media links, the RTR album rating chart. So every album that's been done on the Rate the Record podcast before will appear on that chart in the order of highest score to lowest score. So you can go ahead and check that out. And also found at ratetherecord.ca is the RTR Club. It's an optional way to support the show financially, but the option is indeed yours if you choose to do it. $3 a month, at least in Canadian currency, $3 a month will get you the following: early access to episodes, a shout out on social media, and also possibly in an episode that's closest to the one that you've decided to join the RTR Club on. If you have a band, I will review one of your songs. Quick, free, and easy chatting with me over there. And I'm sure there's probably something else, but by all means, you can go check out what I've missed, if I missed anything at all, over at ratetherecord.ca. So anyways, we can dive right into it now. So for today's episode 126, I decided to take a look at another brand new album. Looking at new albums was something that was kind of introduced in season 6. Just because, I don't know, it was more exciting for me to be able to dive into something brand new with absolutely no background knowledge on it, and it hasn't been out for a long time either, so I feel like early to the game. I know it's nothing new for the music review scene, but for me it is, and I decided to carry it on over into season 7. So today we are looking at Mogwai and their brand new album as of January 24th, The Bad Fire. So if you remember back in the new music review, I believe I did in late 2024, I can't remember exactly when, I actually reviewed one of the songs from this album, God Gets You Back, and I praised it. I really very much liked it. And so I put this album in my head. I knew the release date was going to be soon, so I knew I wanted to have this album in season 7 at some point. It's been out for a few weeks now, so I figured why not? People have had a chance to hear it, and we can finally have a discussion about it and everything like that. So before we actually have that discussion, let me tell you a little bit more about the album itself. The Bad Fire is the 11th full-length studio album by Scottish post-rock band Mogwai. It was released January 24th, 2025, and recorded at Chem 19 Studios in Blantyre, Scotland, and was released through both Rock Action Records in the UK and Europe, a label originally created by Mogwai, and Temporary Residence Limited in the US. The album was produced by John Congleton, who has worked with many other bands and artists, including, but not limited to, Blondie, Chelsea Wolfe, Explosions in the Sky, Swans, and so many more. As of this album, the band consists of Stuart Braithwaite on guitar, bass, and vocals, Dominic Aitchison on bass, guitar, and keyboards, Martin Bullock on drums, and Barry Burns on guitar, keys, bass, synth, and vocals. The album has had a fairly good start on the UK and European charts. At the point of this episode going out, The Bad Fire has appeared on 8 different charts and hit number 5 on the UK Albums Chart, number 2 on the UK Independent Album Chart, and number 1 in Scotland. The album spawned 3 singles prior to launch: God Gets You Back, Lion Rumpus, and Fanzine Made of Flesh. Well, there you go. You know a little bit about the album now. There's not a whole lot to say because, again, it's only been out for a few weeks at the point of me recording this. So with that said, I think we should just dive into it and get into these songs and see how good and or bad this album really is. Which way is it going to go? Let's find out by starting with song number 1, the single I've reviewed first for this album, God Gets You Back. I'll pause it there. Song number 1. Let's get the album kicked off with God Gets You Back. And now, as I've already said, I've already done technically a shorter review of this song on the NMR back in September 2024, now that I remember correctly. So on YouTube, at the very least, above my head, I'll put a card there. So if you want to go watch that kind of brief review of how I felt about it at the time, it's there for you to go check out. But right now, I'm going to give you a more in-depth idea of how I feel about this song. That building of like string, synth, and percussive layers in those like first 2-ish minutes, I think it's really great. It's super atmospheric, and it's kind of clearing the fog a little bit, so that way we can finally get to the meat of the album. So I just kind of like this almost mysterious opening that this song has to the album as a whole. I think it's really nice. I felt the vocals were a little pushed back in the mix, but I feel like this is the type of project, or I guess like song specifically, where I think that it really works well here. I think it's a really nice touch. I think it just sounds nice altogether, especially with that watery processing on it too. Again, just a nice touch to everything. It fits the mood, it fits the style, and just it's well deserved to be there. And the song has something of like a crispy texture to it, almost like all over the place, but yet it still somehow manages to still feel like smooth and just flow really nicely. I feel like the best way I can describe it is like it's that fresh coat of lip balm on like an especially dry day. I don't know what other words to put that into, but I'm pretty sure you'll get that reference in some way, shape, or form. With that said, though, we can now move on to the next song on our list. Number 2, High Chaos. Hello. All right, song number 2, High Chaos. Very chaotic ending there, very fitting title for that particular end there. I really like that melancholic guitar that we get through a good chunk of the song. It starts pretty early on and works its way through the vast majority of the track. It's really kind of pretty on this dreary yet still lively background at the very least. So I just like the combination of everything and how it feels. And I like how this track actually has its hills and valleys to it too, because there are parts you can definitely discern as like a verse and chorus, for example. And the chorus portions, if you want to call it that, get like really intense, and there's this very like fast, plucked, staticky guitar that adds something of a feeling of unease to the entire atmosphere of the track. So again, just more to appreciate. I was really digging on that. And it really picks up towards the end too. Like there's not much of a feeling of building going into it, but we're just suddenly hit with this massive weight of like loud, all-encompassing like distortion and noise just like right near the end there. So whether or not you actually felt engaged in this track, you're suddenly just pulled in. You're kind of forced to at that point because it kind of takes over at that point. But you know, with that said though, it's a great track. I like it more and more the more that I listen to it. If I was not to review this album for another week or two and I listened to this song more and more, it actually might appear higher on the list than it is today. We'll get to that part later, because now we got to move on to the next song, number 3. What kind of mix is this? Just gonna pause it there. Song number 3. What kind of mix is this? Maybe I'll answer that question in a minute, because I'm just gonna talk about the rest of the song as a whole first. This one feeds off pretty well from the previous track. We just have another like low pace but super atmospheric and slightly noisy instrumental track that has something of like an approachable vibe to it, is what I'm trying to say clearly. This one picks up and definitely has its fun moments to it. I mean, you have like these high kind of glitchy sprinkling synths. The bass groove that we get in that second verse, again, there's like a discernible verse chorus going on in this instrumental track. And even like the minor portion of guitar harmonies that we get. I mean, there's like a lot of neat little moments that definitely stood out to me. Like they poked out and just really caught my interest. So it definitely has that going for it at the very least. So yeah, the song does ask indeed, what kind of mix is this? I guess the best way I can probably answer that is probably pretty, but yet it's kind of messy. It's full, but actually kind of dreamy despite all the distortion. I mean, like, who says dreams can't be distorted, right? So I dig it regardless. It's fine. Another nice track we got on our hands here. It's turning out to be a pretty decent album so far. So let's see where the rest of the album takes us with song number 4, Fanzine Made of Flesh. All right, cool. Pause it right there then. Song number 4, Fanzine Made of Flesh. Hell of a title. Very interesting. And also, speaking of interesting, I mean, wow, given what we've been handed from this album up to this point, this probably has the poppiest feeling to the entire list so far. I mean, though being poppy feeling, I still like that the vocals end up being a background thought as compared to being like the forefront, like, you know, like a typical pop song or whatever like that. It's kind of like a background thing because it's the way it's mixed, and it's got that vocoder in it too, and it just makes it more part of the atmosphere than actually standing out. And I actually kind of appreciate that. I kind of said that in the first song too, and I see that Mogwai is actually pretty good at doing that, so I do appreciate that touch to it as well. And I think that obviously the synths take more of a lead in this song. I mean, there's synths all over this album, but we have like the basic backing tracks of like the guitars, drums, and bass that feel like more of like it's taken a rhythmic step back, and it's just kind of like, you know, fairly standard sounding, just kind of pushing the song along, whereas everything about the synths just seem to be pushing everything forward itself, definitely taking a lead on it. So, I mean, that's fine and all. There's obviously nothing inherently wrong with that. There's plenty of music like that. I've reviewed plenty of music like that, but I can't say I was anticipating this song up to this point. It's been pretty wild. Like, my notes are kind of all over the place just because, I don't know, I wasn't ready for this very kind of poppy-ish type of song, you know? So here we are. It's still a fun track though. It's very uplifting feeling. So I certainly don't hate it. That's fine. Like, I don't think there's a single song on this album that I actually truly dislike at all. So that's the good news. We can learn more about that as we go, because now we have to go to song number 5, Pale Vegan Hip Pain. Another fantastic title. Ooh, it left us unresolved. Ooh, it didn't do a final chord or anything, not even a really sad chord. Song number 5, Pale Vegan Hip Pain. Like, I love when musicians have to title instrumental tracks and most of them never know how to name them in the first place. So I love names like this. This is funny. Yeah, even though it doesn't sound very funny because it sounds like this person's in a lot of pain. It was a very sad track. And on that note, I can talk about the song kind of being that, because we went right back into that atmospheric, like, melancholic feeling song. Don't know why I had to emphasize melancholic there, but I did. Anyways, it's something of an emotional whiplash, especially coming off that last song. But I mean, like, hey, isn't life just full of emotional whiplash? Isn't that the most relatable thing of all, right? Am I alone? I don't know, but stepping away from my feelings for a minute here and whatever the hell that might bring. The middle of this track has some... I'm sorry, I'm just kind of like wandering all over the place with my own thoughts here. Anyways, the middle of the song has some like really intriguing moments in it towards like the halfway point. So the middle, around the halfway, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You get some quieter moments in there with like more of those like glitch synths and like sweeping strings that are like just panning left to right and everything. Feels really nice. It's not even necessarily dizzying either. Sometimes when you get that panning effect going back and forth, it can feel like a little disorienting. But I think it's nice here, and it's definitely a moment to pull you in and just kind of like allow you to zone out and dissociate a little bit. I don't even mean that in a bad way. It's just kind of like listening to the track uninhibited and just like letting the music go through you in that point. So it's really, really nice in that aspect. It is really pretty, though. I actually really like this one. I appreciate the feeling of this one as well. I'm not even like properly able to explain what that feeling is, but I'm definitely here for it, and I'm definitely here for what this album's been giving me so far. I'm pretty pleased with it. So let's see if that feeling continues by going to song number 6. If you find this world bad, you should see some of the others. Sorry, the title is so long it cuts off on my screen here. Well then, pausing it there. Song number 6. If you find this world bad, you should see some of the others. I have to keep reading it like directly off my notes instead of on Spotify because again, it just kind of cuts off. Long title, but yeah, once again, just these very interesting titles moving forward on this album. This has something of like a darker, almost brooding pace to it. But like most of the other tracks on the album, like it does have like a lot of substance in the layers that we keep getting as we go. So it's not like it feels lackluster in that sense at all. Even being a brooding pace, you're still getting more and more and more out of it. In the instrumentation too, like it goes from being really beautiful to just like super intense as the track just continues to build and build and build, because like once you hit like around the middle or just like a little after the middle, it gets so loud and then like enveloping, like even in headphones, on speakers, doesn't matter. Like it gets intense very quickly. It does take away from the overall atmosphere a little bit, I will say. But because like the quiet, like echoing reverb bits are suddenly like overcome by just this absolutely blaring distortion that again, just keeps getting louder and louder and louder until it finally descends back into a quieter, like spaced out, like ending to the track, which is really nice. It's so weird how we hit that really big high and then just kind of just drift back on down a little bit. I feel like the payoff of this song, I should say, kind of missed the mark just like a little bit. But most of the song is still pretty. It's still a decent track. Again, I don't think there's a single track on this album that I dislike. And for the most part, the song one was pretty good, but I don't know. It feels like it kind of missed the mark a little bit, just a bit. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I think it got like way too loud for that like really pretty atmosphere to be overtaken like that. You can have your distortion, you can have it get loud, but like it got blaring at some point. So yeah, I'll just throw that note out there. Don't necessarily hate it, but would have done it a little differently production wise. Anyways, producer Chris over here obviously knows how to fix records, right? I guess so. Anyways, song number 7, 18 Volcanoes. Alrighty then, pause it there. Like a lot of these songs kind of like have enough of an ending where I can pause it and doesn't just skip to the next song. Song number 7, 18 Volcanoes, very specifically 18 of them too. God, if it was all in one place, good luck living there. Am I right? Haha, funny guy. Anyway, song reviews. That's what I'm here for. So aside from like the ambient and like textured layers throughout the entire song, I really dig the distorted bass throughout the entire track. I think it acts as like a good juxtaposition to like a very airy and chill or chilly really kind of atmosphere, because the atmosphere of this one felt pretty cold. Except that bass, I think, is what was adding more of like the warmth of the song, like the good balance of heat that we truly needed. The chorus gets really crunchy overall too, and I mean, surprise, surprise, that's been happening like a lot of songs on this album. I still appreciate it when it happens though. I'm not exactly tired of it. And not only did it get crunchy though, I do like that the soft kick drum kind of kicks in, no pun intended, and it adds kind of something of a quiet but quick pulse to the song and really livens up the entire mix. So I felt I truly appreciated that much about it at the very least. But unfortunately, I'm not getting too much more out of this one beyond that. Like, I know there's still more layers to dig through and everything like that, but as compared to some of the other ones, it's not doing as much for me. but I still don't dislike it or necessarily like it more than some of the other tracks. I don't know. They're kind of like all falling into some sort of line for me where I like them, but just nothing's truly like reached out and grabbed me. Like, okay, maybe a few tracks have done that so far, but like specifically, most of them have kind of been somewhere in this higher middle ground area, which again, you'll find out in the song ranking thing. So I don't know, but this one still kind of manages to be like emotional and lush, not lush, not even a real word, emotional and lush. And I think that's what matters the most in the end. As long as you feel good about it, when you're like, if you're getting a good feeling, or even if it's a sad feeling, if you're feeling like that, just feeling of connection to it, I think that's what matters most in the end. So I think that's what I'm getting the most out of it. Anyways, I'm rambling. So we'll go on to song number 8, Hammer Room. And as it fades into the ethereal, I guess the word is I'm looking for, ethereal, I don't even remember. I shouldn't have even said that note if I can't say the word properly. Song number 8, Hammer Room. Going a little crazy today. It feels good, I think. Anyways, this one immediately struck me as different. I mean, like if you're watching the beginning when I turned the song on, you saw me like kind of, my eyes jolt up like, wow, crap, that is different. I mean, because you have the bright pluckiness of the strings, or it might even be like plucking piano strings. And if not that, maybe it's just a completely muted piano. I can't really discern what it is, but at the same time, you can definitely tell that's different. But yeah, it's just like that bright pluckiness. And then the prominent and dancey drums and claps that are just kind of pushing everything all the way through. It definitely made it all of that kind of made it feel like something outside of this album, you know? Like it feels like it wasn't even technically part of this album. It feels like it was by someone else at some points. Just because, again, I'm comparing it to like a lot of the quieter, sadder tracks that we've been getting up to this point. So when we get stuff like this, it just feels so foreign all of a sudden. It's strange. Not necessarily bad, it's just strange, you know? And the song has like a lot of textures it throws in at various points that I think always keeps it lively and interesting. And it never really feels forced or bothersome though. So if anything, that's a plus. It has it going for it. I appreciate it. I like it. Good stuff. It's a fun track with some hills and valleys and everything like that. It's nice to have something with a bit more of a pulse this late in the album. Because I mean, listen, as much as I'm liking some of the sadder tracks, to have that be your album 1 through 10, I don't know, man. You got to be like emotionally ready for that. So at least this one picks up a little bit so you can appreciate songs like this. Alrighty then, we're almost at the end. So we're going to move on to the penultimate track of this album, song number 9, Lion Rumpus. Okay, whatever that was. Don't yell at me, please. Song number 9, Lion Rumpus. There was a lot of intensity in this one, but in like kind of a warm and bright kind of way. So it's not like just that harsh intensity, but there was still a lot of it there. I think a lot of that comes from both the distortion and the sweeping synths paired with that like absolutely pounding drum that just goes through the entire track. Good stuff. A lot of fun on that. And it manages to keep that grandiose feeling going all the way through the track too. And which is good because the song is only like 3.5 minutes long. And I know that's like an average song length. So it's like just shrug your shoulders at that. But it's the shortest song on this album. 3.5 minutes is the shortest song on this album. So, you know what? Take what you will with it. It sounds good for what it is, the way it does it. So, hey, why not? It kind of feels like it flies by a bit too. So, I don't know. Didn't bother me or anything all that much. This song also essentially like feels like fireworks to me. Like the mental image in my head is just like big fireworks display explosions and everything like that. Because it makes me wonder how the album's going to wrap up from here. Because this song feels like it's like the track that plays before or like during the credits of a movie, like the end credits. So it's a fitting near end to the album. We're just about there, but it's not quite the end. Let's see how they can wrap it up with song number 10, Fact Boy. Just very airy at the end here, so I'm actually going to pause it because it just continues to fade out for like 12 more seconds. Song number 10, the final song on the album, Fact Boy. This one is a very spacey and dreamy, atmospheric kind of track. The instrumentals are like just so pretty in this one. They really are. Like, I think everything about the instrumentals are what I was truly hoping for out of some of these tracks. And this one gave it to me. Now, some of the other tracks do feel like this song, but most of them have those like occasional like sharp stabs of like super loud noise. But this one manages to remain like consistently smooth, like right through to the end. So it's just a very, very lovely wrap up to the album. And I mean, even on that note too, as nice as the firework-like ending of the last track was that I was just mentioning before, and how well I think that worked, I feel like this one proved me wrong. And it feels like a beautiful end to the album. I can definitely get behind this one. This kind of feels like during the credits, maybe a post-credits thing. I don't know. But like, even with that like extremely airy and ambient, like strange, for lack of a better term, ending, I think everything just worked really well all over the place for this song. So good song. And I mean, hey, overall, pretty solid album, I must say. I've said before, I have to do my homework on Mogwai. I've listened to this album. I've listened to a few tracks in the past, but I've never given their work a full, thorough listen like I probably should. And I think this album is going to have to put me in that direction now. I kind of feel like I want to. So be it on my own time or on the podcast, eventually I will get around to doing that because I like this one. And we get to talk about how much I liked it. I'll rate the record, obviously, in just a moment. But first off, Spotify has to disappear off the screen now. Now it's just me for the time being, because before I rate the record, you know what I gotta do. Rank the songs. The numbers showed up. Look at that. 1 through 10 on the screen next to me here. Time to rank the songs. Which ones were the favorites, the least favorites, not so great to great, least preferred to most preferred. However you want to cut that cake. You got a line of people with plates waiting for a slice. Now, what are you going to do? There's 15 people and 10 slices of cake. Uh-oh. It's okay, I'm diabetic. I don't need any of that cake, so that's 14 people I have to worry about now. Anyways, enough of my dumb jokes aside, because I'm not even certain that funny. Time to rate the songs here, or rank the songs. So let's do that now from 10 to 1, shall we? 10, Fanzine Made of Flesh. 9, Hammer Room. 8, If you find this world bad, I didn't write the whole thing down. So if you find this world bad is all I'm going to leave that one at. 7, 18 Volcanoes. 6, Hi Chaos. 5, What Kind of Mix Is This? 4, Lion Rumpus. 3, Pale Vegan Hip Pain. 2, Fact Boy. It was that good that made it to the top of the list. But number 1, the song that I already liked that I reviewed back in September, made it to number 1 on this list, God Gets You Back. I reviewed it back in September and liked it. I put it on the top of my top 2024 singles for the NMR and everything like that list. It was somewhere on that list. I don't remember exactly where. But, I mean, it had to come number 1 here. I just really enjoy that song. I've gone back to it a few times since listening to it like back in September. So, good stuff. Good album. I really do enjoy it. The numbers are gone now, and now I'm here again with this. The Rate the Record thing is now here. The words are on the screen. It's time to rate the record, the big moment of the show, the title of the podcast. What did I think about this album? Well, you know, last week we started the show off, or the season, I should say, season 7, with a B tier album, B+ specifically for Primus. So you gotta wonder, is it gonna go higher? Is it gonna go lower than that? Is it gonna match it? It's practically gonna match it, actually. So it came out to 77.50 according to my own calculations, which again puts it at a B+ tier album. That's 2 in a row now, so very interesting how this is all working out. There's a lot of lack of B tier albums last season, and it seems like so far the season is starting out the way that we got 2 now. I can only imagine what's going to happen next week. Maybe it changes, maybe it stays the same. I guess we'll have to wait and see, because that's then, this is now, and I got to wrap up the show. So we are at the end of this episode, so thank you very much for tuning in and hanging out with me and joining me for this album and listening to it with me. If you did indeed listen to this album with me, down in the comments below of wherever you're listening, because there are comment sections practically everywhere, let me know your thoughts on this album. Do you love it? Do you hate it? How would you rank the songs? How would you rate the record? Do you agree or disagree with me? Anything you want to talk about with this particular album, the band even, any recommendations for songs that I should check out, by all means, down in the comments, you can go ahead and do that. I would love to check them out. I love having these talks with you and like hearing your opinions on things. So please don't feel shy to do it. Go down and do that now. And you can also find other places to leave comments for me if you go to ratetherecord.ca. That is ratetherecord.ca once again. Streaming links, social media links, the album rating chart, which this album will now appear on that chart, and of course the RTR Club if you feel like doing that. And I should have mentioned in the beginning too, the RTR Club, you can also request an album too. If you have an album that you want me to do here on the show, by all means, that is the way you do it. You go to the RTR Club, but that's optional. So if you don't, you want the surprise of each week of what I'm going to be doing, then just keep doing that. It's all good. But I digress. I should also remind you to like, subscribe, rate, share, comment, follow. Those 6 cool things that the algorithmic gods of YouTube always want me to remind you of. So yes, please like and subscribe, Did I appease the gods yet? I don't know. Anyways, once again, we are at the end of this video, so thank you one more time very much for hanging out with me and checking it out. So until I see you next week for episode 127, go listen to even more awesome music. Take care, friends.